Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Saturday Morning Showcase. That's a good name for this series that probably is only going to have one or two videos. This is The Fury of Dracula playing on a digital edition, so not tabletop simulator. I'm going to play a very experienced player here and want to show kind of how this game works a little bit. So let's get into it. So this is like a $10 download from Steam. I really like it. It does have a couple of bugs, but it also has a nice community of players. There are two sides that are played here. One player plays, and you can actually play this 5-player, but generally one player plays four hunters, Godalming, Seward, Helsing, and Harker, and then one player plays Dracula. And it's a little bit of a hidden movement game, a little bit of a card combat game, and pretty tense. So you can see why I would want to, be attracted to that. So Rebellion, a little bit of a hidden movement game, that might be stretching it with the Rebel base, card combat. There's no dice in this. Play Dracula and showcase Dracula. We are playing standard rules here. And once in a while, there are kind of random folks that join online. But the Discord is really the best way to arrange games. Let me paste the Discord in for him. So go ahead and join this Discord and check it out. It's the game designer. Nomad Games also does Talisman and some other games like this. Yeah, it's fun. So when we start here, you're going to see a map of Europe, and you're going to see, like, I don't know, 50 spaces. They're all different cities. And the idea is Dracula starts out. Oh no, that didn't work. Nope. This clicked. Yep. All right, sorry about that. A little bit of a false start here. The AI in this game is exceptionally bad. So if you buy this game, you really should be buying it with the purpose of playing other people multiplayer. The AI is okay for learning rules, but that's really about it. Okay, so you're going to see a map of Europe here, and the hunters are going to pick these different cities to start on. And the idea is Dracula will pick somewhere different, and the hunters are going to use skills to try to locate Dracula. So I tend to play a pretty aggressive Dracula. Let's kind of do a standard start, I think. Okay, so Dracula starts with 5 cards in his hand that are separate powers. And each one of these does either a delay action or a damage action. And what Dracula's goals are is to get to 13 points over here on the left-hand side. And you can get points in a variety of ways. Staying alive is one, raising vampires to mature is another. I do have a vampire here, so maybe I'll start with that idea and try to raise a vampire. Okay. It was this. We finished up a tournament here. According to one of the posters, I had the most wins of a new player in a tournament, which wasn't very many. It was like 3 or 4 out of like 8 or 9, maybe. I played Dracula exclusively in the tournament, so I got some good practice with it. Drac, I think, is known as the harder faction to play here. It also has fewer decisions to make, which I thought would be a little bit easier to explain. So what happens is during the days, so like you can see the day of the week up here, you have a day and a night for Monday, and then a day and night for Tuesday, and there's different actions you take during each of those days. And then as a week goes through, as a week goes by, you end up with, it's called a fury point. So there's 3 like fury points that you get up here, and after you have 3 weeks that go by, Dracula gets 3 points automatically for each day. So that's how you can get to 13. That's one way. The other way you can do it, so watch what happens here. I'll click slide trail. It moves this card. This card is my starting area into Valona. So imagine having a deck of cards with one spot, kind of like probes, right? One spot for each of these. So now I get to choose where to move to. So I can move anywhere adjacent. Let me move here to Athens, just for now, and I'll explain this a little bit later. And then I get to put something down. So I'm going to choose to put this aristocratic vampire down. It says, reveal this location card and advance the influence tracker by 4, then clear hideouts. Okay, so I'm going to put this down. What does all that mean? I'm going to draw a new card. So every time Dracula plays a card, he discards a card. So now I have 2 spots on the trail. I have 55 and 3, so these 2 spots down here. So if a hunter walks on any of these or draws a card that allows him to guess where I am and picks either of these, those cards will flip over. So let's say he picks Valona with a card. Then Valona would flip over, like if he had a power that allowed him to do that. Valona would flip over and he would know I'm 1 space away from Valona. So that means I could be in 46, 49, 50, or 3. So the hunters are going to spend their first week kind of gearing up. So you can see down here is their hand of cards. They're going to grab items, which are these black circles here, and events, which are these white circles here. Generally, a hunter can hold 3 items and 2 events, I think. They're also going to draw train tickets, which are these little coupons here. They can hold 2 train tickets. Train tickets allow you to move on the yellow or the white lines. So the white train tickets let you move further. The yellows kind of work on Eastern Europe over here. And hunters can also ride by horse over these red lines here. So at the very beginning, Drac doesn't necessarily get much more powerful as the game goes. He starts off with 5 cards, he ends with 5 cards, he starts off with 15 health. Hopefully he ends up with health, but he might die. Hunters, they have lower health. Godalming has 11, Mina has 9, Helsing has 8, and then Seward has 7. Or no, 9. Seward has 9. And so yeah, that's a little more. Okay, so it's back to my turn. So we've had Tuesday, day and night. I'm going to use a power here. So now you'll see I'm kind of in the corner, right? So I'm going to slide the trail. I'm going to use a special card. So Drac has these 5 special cards. And once you play a special card, you don't get it back until it falls off the trail here. And we'll talk about that in a second. So I'm going to play this Misdirect, which is clear any hideout on a space of the trail that is not your current location. So you can't clear the space you're standing on. It will then show, it'll replace that card. So I'm going to replace Valona with this Misdirect card. Okay. Now, why am I doing that? Well, you'll see Valona is my starting location. And in a starting location, you don't put any event cards underneath it. When I move to Athens, I put my vampire underneath it. So Valona is not particularly useful to me. So I'm just going to replace Valona with a Misdirect. So now if he lands on Valona, he doesn't see it. Also, I have the ability to move back to Valona now because Valona's back in the deck. There's only 1 copy of each card in the deck. So I started on Valona, I moved to Athens, and now I can move back to Valona, and now I can put another event on top of Valona. I'm going to put this, I don't know, save bats. I'll put bats on there. Okay, bats is a delaying card. Drew another vampire. Okay. I'm also going to put a rumor token, which you get 1 per week, on my card with the vampire. What a rumor token does is it suggests you get 1 per week, and it suggests to the hunter player that there might be a vampire there. There's a rumor that there's a vampire there. Now, if a vampire with a rumor token matures, you get an extra 3 points. So maturing an aristocratic vampire gets you 4 points. If there's a rumor token, you get an extra 3. So you can see that gets you all the way to 7. Okay, this is the first event card that has allowed him to search that popped up. John Seward. Play immediately. Choose 2 cities. Dracula must reveal if he's in those cards. So he guessed Valona and Bucharest. Okay, that's unfortunate. It's a pretty common one to guess early, and he drew it at a pretty good time. Had he drawn it last turn, he wouldn't have been able to guess it because it would have been misdirected. Okay, so Drac is revealed. So now he knows where I am. Now, what does that do? It does allow him to start chasing me. It means he knows I'm not up in London and I'm not over here. So there's some reason for him to start planning what he could be doing here. So I need to start thinking about how aggressively I want to play now. You'll notice here, if we look at the hand size of the hunters are pretty well stocked. So Godalming's got 3 items. He's been discarding some items. He's discarded some weapons. Means he might have something good on here. A couple of events. There are events that are good for combat too. Seward is probably fully loaded. No, he's got 3. So Seward's special abilities, he can hold an extra item. He can hold 4 and an event. Godalming's extra power is he's rich, so he draws twice as many items, so it helps him go through the deck faster. Helsing's special is he can trade event cards with other hunters no matter where he is. Normally hunters have to be standing on each other to trade. And then Nina's special power, first off, she starts bitten. You can see this little bite sign. If you know the lore, you'll understand. And if you're bitten by Dracula, it means I get to see 2 of Mina's cards. So I can see she's got a Heavenly Host and a Renewed Vigor. Okay, so my options now are I can either try to sneak out into Greater Europe here through this little track here, or I can continue to kind of spin around and maybe try to get him lost a little bit. So this decision has a lot to do with what my plan is. So if I'm going to go into Sophia, should go here. Just keep delaying them. Don't have any other delays though. Let's go into Sophia, see how this works out. No, let's go to Salonika. I'll go into Salonika and I'll play a Wolves. Wolves does up to 4 damage, but they can reduce the damage if they reveal they have weapon cards. So I'll go ahead and do that. Wolves is not a particularly powerful card. The reason, let's talk about what happens if you mature a vampire. So you'll see as time goes on, this section keeps sliding over, right? So far, the hunters have just stayed in place and been supplying. And so far the hunters have just been staying in place and supplying. Just checking the YouTube comments here. Each day that, we'll talk about that in a minute. So each day that goes by, these cards slide 1 space over. So Valona, Athens, Valona again, and then now 46, which is Salonika. If this card slides off the trail, this vampire will mature and I'll get points. So you can see Godalming on his turn took a step out to 59. So he's likely 1, 2, 3 steps away from Athens. So that could be a little bit of a challenge for him. It means he's likely to make it all the way down to Athens. There's a chance that if he lands on 55, that's Bats. Bats' ability is, let's look at Valona here. Bats' ability is to, when a hunter performs their next action, so you place a token on the board game, you place a token under the hunter, and then when they have their next action, you discard the token and move them to an adjacent city, and then the hunter skips their next turn. So that could end up being helpful. In day actions, oh, this is a fine one too. So newspaper reports is one that hunters always look for. There's 3 in the deck. The deck's 61 cards left here. He reveals, you can either reveal the 3rd card on the trail, or you can keep it and you can reveal the 5th or 6th card later. So he found the 3rd card, so now he knows for sure I went from Valona to Athens because that's the only way to get there. And then I misdirected, went back to Valona, and now I'm 1 space away from Valona. Okay. In daytime action, so each action has 2 periods, day and night. Dracula only does things during the night. Hunters can move during the day. They can also supply during the day, which is draw cards. They can also grab rail tickets during the day, or they can take special actions or trade. During night, they cannot move unless they have a special power that lets them do that. Okay, next up. So if you mature a vampire, if that happens, what happens is the next 3 cards get removed, all the events and all the locations. So it kind of helps you stay hidden. It also removes a lot of your powers. So sometimes after a vampire, you don't necessarily want to have other vampires because it could be hard to do things. Because like if a vampire matures and clears other vampires, then it's not particularly great. So sometimes you just want to kind of lay vampires and then damaging stuff down. We'll put a mob down here in Sophia. I drew a reckless vampire, which is nice. A reckless vampire. So a aristocratic vampire is kind of an old man vampire. If he tries to kill the vampire, it just sits there, and he has to spend an action to murder it. These terrorists. Um, okay, so sense of emergency. Godalming can suffer 2 damage and move up to 3 roads away. So that's a special card that he drew. So he goes from 11 to 9, and then 1, 2, 3, move straight to Athens. So this is my first ambush. However, I cannot ambush with this vampire. It says don't let on. It gives you this thing because on their side it says Dracula's considering ambushing you. I can't with an aristocratic, so that's fine. So now he's going to murder it before I can mature it. That's okay, that happens. Let's talk about this map a little bit. You'll see there's big squares like this, like 40, and there's small squares like 5. So big squares you can supply and find items and events. Small squares you can only find events and not items. So one thing I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to make a trail in these small cities here, because if I can match that with, we'll talk about that later. If I can match the trail, if I can get him to discard items and he's chasing me around and can't restock, I might be able to have an advantageous combat. And I do like combat. Okay, so Athens has been cleared. The rumor was correct. There was a vampire there. I'm not going to get my points. Godalming's sort of stuck in the corner. There's a bats here, wolves. We know that Godalming has 2 items left because he used a stake. So, okay, fine. So now from 50, I have a lot of options. I can go to 49, I can go to 6, I can run off to the corners here. I am going to go to 49, I think. I'm going to lay down a vampire. Reckless vampire is a younger version of an aristocratic vampire. It's a fighting vampire. It has a chance to score me some points if it matures, and it has a chance to do some damage to hunters if they find it and fight it, instead of just laying down and dying like my old man did. Okay, so we're at Saturday. We're about through week 1. 2 more weeks to go. My win percentage with Dracula is about 25%, I would say, against very experienced players, and maybe 40% against less experienced players, maybe 50. The tournament we just had, there were some that went almost 100% win rate with whatever faction they were playing, but it's uncommon. So I'd say the learning curve is very steep. The community is very friendly, and the game is sort of fun to figure out. Okay, here's another search card that Helsing drew. Play immediately. Dracula must announce the name of each hunter that's adjacent. So I say nobody is adjacent to hunters because I'm on 49 and he's on 48. Part of this game is learning eventually both what this is the discard pile for the gear here. Part of this game is learning what things hunters have discarded, so what they might be vulnerable to, means what they might be holding on to. Also keeping track of what events have been played, so you know how many more are left in the deck. You'll notice here that the event deck has now got a Dracula card on top. What happens in the game is if the hunters try to supply at nighttime, so supply during the day, if it's a Dracula card, it's discarded on the top. Supply at night, What happens, the mechanic is the card is drawn off the bottom. So in the board game, you don't know if it's a Dracula card or a regular card. If you supply at night, the card comes off the bottom, and if it's a Dracula card, instead of being discarded, it goes to Dracula. Now, the meta of the game is such that um, should I put another vampire down? I'll just overload on vampires, try to get one of them to mature. That might be fun. Let's do that. Okay, the meta of the game is such that hunters very rarely supply at night unless they're desperate, so Dracula will often go all game without getting one of the special event cards here. That just happens sometimes. Um, there's a card called Hoax that you could play. Okay, so Godalming. Skip. Okay. So I had a choice to ambush with bats, or I could make him search it during the day, or search during the night. And if I ambush, it triggers right away, which means I would move him somewhere. I could either move him on top of the vampire. Okay, so let's pause here. Okay. Helsing wandered on top of Zagreb, found Dracula, and I can ambush him with a reckless vampire. So what happens is the vampire then attacks him. Now, here's how combat works. You'll see a lot of these, so I'll just kind of address things as they go along here. I basically pick a card, and then he picks a card, and you see what happens. I have 2 copies of every combat card, but I only draw 5, and I think I have like 12 or so in my deck in total. I suspect that Helsing might play something sort of tricky. So I'm going to Claws. Claws does 2 damage during the day or 4 damage at night. So I do Claws, he plays Escape, which cancels the combat, but Dracula card goes first, Hunter card executes second. So I do 2 damage to him, he runs away in fear. So now Helsing goes from 8 to 6. Okay. And then Dracula has 15 points. Now, he found Dracula, but what happens is Dracula only attacks at dawn or dusk, which is the beginning of day or night. So we move during the middle of the day, and then at nighttime, dusk is going to happen, and Dracula is going to have a combat. Now, Dracula is more powerful in the evening than he is in the day. Like, all vampires are more powerful in the evening. Okay. Helsing has escape route, which is remove a hunter from combat. So he removes himself from combat from Dracula, which is too bad. But that was one of his cards. So now he's down to 2 action cards. Godalming here is fully loaded, or Seward's fully loaded. Godalming is not fully loaded. So part of this is going to be, can I drain these hunters of cards and have them deal with all these vampires here? So we'll see. So we're going to move again. It does not actually make sense to stay in place. I will layer Athens. So we'll talk about layers here in a minute. Okay. So layers after something falls off a trail, you can optionally, so Athens fell off the trail, but there was nothing there to mature. It means I could move back to Athens if I was adjacent, or you can create a layer and put like a bonus card under there to either move back at a later point, to get an extra action card there, so there'd be two, or to create an event for a hunter to walk back onto. My hope is that Godalming searches, finds bats, I can move him back into Athens and then do some damage that way. Okay, I'm going to move. I'm going to use my wolf form here. This is a little risky. When you place this card on the trail, move up to 2 roads away, but suffer 1 damage to do it. I'm going to turn into a wolf, and then I'm actually, instead of moving 2 spaces away, I'm just going to move 1 space away to Sajed. That's trying to be a little bit obfuscation here, because normally I would only move 1 space, and I'm hoping to throw him off my trail by doing this. Now, my opponent has seen me play enough where he probably knows that's a routine that I do fairly often, so this might not actually be as tricky as I think I am being here. But we'll see how this goes. So I play this card, which then shows that I wolf form, so he sees it. And so now he can calculate I'm up to 2 spaces away from Zagreb, so I could be like anywhere around here, basically. And then I place an encounter card under it. Okay, so Godalming did search Valona, which is nice. That did reveal bats, and now you can see this little bat token on him. It means during the evening he won't be able to take an action. I will move him, and I'll move him into Athens, so then he'll get hit by my bodyguards, and then he will be delayed, which means he'll skip his daytime action, and then that'll be good. Okay, Godalming, or Van Helsing moves off to Sophia. I'm going to skip Sophia, ambush. So if you ambush, you get to do the damage right away. If you wait and he searches it in the evening, I'll do damage in the evening, which is nice because then he can't really rest and it uses another action. He's probably thinking to himself, well, he was trying to mature something here. All right, so here's bats. So bats in the evening, I'll move him back to Athens. That will trigger a delay, and then I can also ambush him with bodyguards. So bodyguards does 2 damage, and then a second set of 2 damage unless he reveals a weapon. Now the nice part here is okay, he doesn't reveal a weapon, so he takes 2 more damage, so now he's at 7. Now he might not have revealed a weapon because he doesn't want me to know what he's holding, or he might not have revealed a weapon because he doesn't have one. Now, here's the fun part. Now, Valona, okay, and then Helsing revealed a mob. So a mob is reveal cards. Well, first he can discard cards. He's holding on to 3 items. He chose to discard none, so he takes 4 damage. So these hunters are now getting fairly weak. You'll remember my combat cards do like kind of 2 in the daytime or up to 4 in the evening, so that's pretty good. I'm going to move. So now Valona can be a layer. So I'm going to layer Valona, and then I'll put another card out to trigger. Now, it doesn't make any sense to put a vampire out, because if you put a vampire out, it just it will never mature in a layer unless I go all the way back to it. So I'll go ahead and put a Saboteur out. I wish I had another damage card, but I'll put a Saboteur out because if he walks back onto Valona again, I'll delay him another turn, which is pretty good. I did draw bats. I think what I'll do is I'll move here. That doesn't really make any sense. Maybe I'll move here and put a aristocratic down. What's about to mature here? I have wolves and Salonica, which can do some damage. Hmm. Helsing's 4. Don't have quite enough stuff here. If I put a bats down here, I could potentially bat somebody into Sarajevo, which is a reckless, bats them back into Sofia, but I also kind of want to have a combat, so I just don't have enough stuff here. I'm actually going to do a dark call. So special dark call. When you place this on the trail, take 2 damage and draw 5 cards. This is pretty risky, but I need some cards that do some damage here. So I'm going to try to kill a hunter, I think. And those are pretty good cards. Okay, so that puts me up to 10 action cards, which is pretty good. Now, Drac never needs to discard cards, I don't think. Um, so now I have a lot more options to lay down on my trail. Now I'm wounded, it's like I've taken 3. So to heal himself, Drac has an option to um, Drac has an option to feed, which will heal 3 points. It's just another special card here. So my hope is that if, like, let's say Zikrit, maybe he gets to this vampire, but not that vampire, and this vampire matures, that will clear off the wolves. We'll skip that. You can search it at night, see what happens. Now there's a chance. I mean, Helsing has 3 things. You assume he has at least 1 action card on there. If he searches wolves, wolves does 2 damage, 4 damage, and he's only got 4 health, but he can reveal weapons to remove it. Now he did reveal hired scouts. Okay, this will be interesting. So Dracula must reveal 2 cities of the hunter's choosing. He chose Zurich, which is here, Milan, and Zurich. So he was assuming that wolf formed here or here. So he's likely not expecting me to be here. That would be a pretty uncommon thing to do. So Wolves does 4 damage, which Helsing only has 4 health, but he can reveal cards to minimize the damage. Reveal 1 weapon to scare off 1 wolf and 1 weapon to scare off another wolf, and then he would take none. So I played Mob in the hope that he would discard some items. We'll see what he has. He has 1 rifle, and he takes 2 damage. So Helsing's down to 2. He's not looking particularly good here. And I can make Salonica a layer, which just seems pretty okay. If I make it a layer right now, it doesn't trigger on Helsing, but I could maybe bats him back into something and cost some more damage. So let's go ahead and drop another bodyguard in there, I think. Maybe I put a vampire in and bats. That's a little risky to do it that way. Let's just put another bodyguard in there. Okay, then Sophia is going to mature next turn. So now I could feed here probably and get away with healing up to full. Let's go ahead and do that. So feed is place this on the trail and recover 3 damage. So Drac's back up to 15. Okay, reminder, I have a vampire in 49 that can mature. I have a vampire in 59 that can mature. And then I have rats in Sajed. Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna skip and see if Godalming has a stake or not. I think he did, didn't he? Yeah, that's probably no, but he used a stake to kill the other vampire, so he might not have two. There are four stakes. So what a stake is if you search and it's a vampire, it just kills the vampire without a fight. So that's really bad if they stake a fighting vampire. It's not so bad if they stake an aristocratic. He killed one aristocratic with a stake already, and then newspaper reports that's too bad. Now he's going to find out where I will form to, which is a disaster. Okay, Sajed, which is where I am right now. All right. Hello. Timing's everything, fellas. Okay. So now he knows. Now he knows where I went. Um, yeah, I suspected you were up to some mischief or another. That sounds right. Like I said, there's a Wombat plays very aggressively, and most of the community knows that. All right, let's see what we can do here. We can keep moving. Okay, so Sophia, let's layer. Let's go ahead and put another mob there, I think. Well, yeah, put a mob there. So now I have Valona, which is a saboteur, Salonika, which is a bodyguard, and Sophia, which is a mob. Okay, and then I can move to either of these three spots. Vampire, vampire, rats. It's a little risky to fall in a 2v1 trap, but I also think it's unlikely he moves there with Helsing right away. Let's go ahead and move here. Let's put a bats up. I think I can get away with the bats here. That might end up being good. If he lands on bats, I can push him into other areas here. So that's an okay spot to have bats, depending on what he wanders in with. I might be able to be a little strategic. So you'll see I only have room for 3 layers. That means if I try to layer a different one. Okay, so Godalming searches, finds a reckless vampire there. Now, he has to fight him at night, which is nice. My goal with this vampire is to stay alive. So he probably has. Let's see what's been discarded. There's a card called Heavenly Host, which does good damage. He also could have knives, which cancel fangs. Nina is holding on to 1 Heavenly Host. So equal chances that... Okay. I could be safe and just do damage and see what happens. He might punch here. It's pretty common for a hunter to open with Mesmerize. I'm just gonna Fangs. This is a risky play, but we're gonna start it. So Reckless Vampire, if Fangs go off, you get a point. This is canceled by their powerful combat cards like Knives. So Mesmerize would have been the right card to play there. Mesmerize cancels weapons and just cancels the combat card and adds armor to the vampire. So now that I'm wounded, I'm having a hard time here. He will likely punch. Punch does 1 damage and cancels Mesmerize and a bunch of other cards I have. No, okay, he dodged. Dodges claws. If I can make it to round 4, I can escape. So he'll likely knife again here. Strength is good. So strength cancels everything, basically, and does 2 damage. So I'll go ahead and do that. It cancels everything but Heavenly Host. And Heavenly Host is like the Hunter's version of a nuke, kind of. So I'll cancel Punch, because strength cancels everything, and then deal 2 damage to Godalming, so that's pretty good. Now he might knife. Knife cancels my escape card here. I have 2 escape cards, I don't have the good one. So he'll likely knife, which means I need to Mesmerize, because Mesmerize will cancel knife. And you cannot play combat cards back to back. So whatever card you have to play another card afterwards. So he did knife, dodge, knife, punch. And dodge and punch are regular cards that you get every combat. We only know about one of his cards so far. So he might have double knife here. If he does, he's going to use it. Let's go ahead and strength again. This is very risky here. I could just escape his bats, but I feel like Fangs to Fire might be trying to be coy here. So I'm going to play another strength. If he dodges here, this is a mess. No, he knifed. He has double knife. Okay, that's good. Now he's down to 4. And now I know for sure he's going to play knife again because knife cancels escape his bats. And I don't have a way to get away, unfortunately. Plotting does me no good. I can't fangs against a knife. I can't escape his bats against a knife. I can only claws. If I had Mesmerize, that's the card I would need because combat ends after 6 rounds and then I would escape. But unfortunately, I do not have it. Yep. All right, so Godalming's down to 2. My vampire did not mature, which is okay. Because if you'll remember right, I placed 2 vampires back to back. So my next vampire is likely to mature. He's going to have a hard time killing that vampire here on 59. Not impossible. Because Mina might be able to get there. We'll see. All right. Now, the other thing you can do with a layer is you can move back to it. The problem with moving back to a layer is then the hunters know exactly where you are. The plus side to moving back to a layer is I can then stack another encounter card on it. So, like I could move, no, can't do, oh, there we go, all right. So Helsing moving over to where Godalming is, which is interesting. Okay. I think he moved over to Godalming to prevent me from like trying to move on top of them to do damage. I don't think I'm feeling that aggressive. Helsing's healed back up to 5. Good for him. Okay, what do I have for my cards here? I got fogs, vampires, and spy, which is nice. Okay, so Zagreb is a vampire, and if that clears off, it'll just clear a rats and my two special cards. And then I have a bats and Belgrade, so I need to get another vampire down here. So I could put it in Sophia. Sarajevo. I could move and force a fight in Sophia. I don't know if I'm ready to do that or not. Don't think so. So I'm going to slide the trail. I'm going to layer the spot that they're on right now. I'm going to clear off Valona because that's just a saboteur. And I'm going to put an aristocratic in Sarajevo, I think, because I have too many of these right now. Maybe I'll put a hoax. I just want to get through my cards, get back to some good cards, and go up to Klausenberg. Right? Yeah. Like another lady vampire there. See what happens with Zagreb. So Godalming could move, but I know he doesn't have a stake. So I don't think Godalming will move. I think he'll put Helsing in charge of that. We know Helsing has one rifle because he showed that when he had wolves. So it's probably rifle and stake. So if that's the case, it means I would need to ambush Helsing during the day because I don't want to get staked at night. Or he might be calculating, maybe I just let this thing mature. If it matures, yeah, I think that's exactly what he's doing. If it matures, I'll get 4 points because the Reckless Vampire, no, I didn't put a Runer token on it because I didn't have one at the time, but I'll advance by 4. And then, yeah, I guess Belgrade and Bucharest. So yes, Bucharest, yeah, Belgrade. So he knows I went to Belgrade and now I'm one step away. And he also knows it's not Sofia because I cleared the trail. And he knows it's not Szeged, so Szeged is on the trail. So he actually knows I'm in Klausenberg right now, which is okay, that's fine. You might be wondering what this castle is. It's a Dracula castle. If I move there, I get 5 hit points, but I can't go over 15, so that's okay. Let's go to, okay, so let's mature this vampire. That'll get me 4 points. It'll also clear off Szeged and my 2 power cards, so I get those back. And then, should we go back to Szeged? Should we start leaking over here? Maybe that's what we should do. Also just keep getting tucked back in here. So he knows Belgrade +1, and so he knows Belgrade Klausenberg. Szeged seems like the route to go. Let's drop another vampire here. So you'll notice the young vampire I put down has 6 health points, but she only matures to score 3. It's asking if I want to add a Runer token to one of these two. So if I add it to Klausenberg, I'll get up to 6, and then 1 move point gets me there. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll just add it to Klausenberg. Now, they should know where that is just through powers of deduction, but I think that's okay because I want to try to encourage them to move. probably just going to heal up for a while here. Yeah, hopefully Halsing searches, finds bats, and then I can bat some back into Sophia maybe, which would feel pretty good. Now there are event cards that reveal whether Dracula's next to you. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm definitely playing it a little bit risky here. Okay, Helsing has been batsed. Hang out to grab, and I'll explain this move here in a minute. Back to 5 cards now. The thought process here is they know I was in Klausenberg and I moved 2 spaces. Vienna is a nice place to do a wolf form from. So I might do another wolf form and go down to Valona because I cleared that. Really interesting. Okay, Rufus Smith. Okay, so he plays a card to draw an ally, and then an ally lets you search, and he picked Bucharest, so he knows I'm not in Bucharest, so he knows I went a different direction. He has horses. Horses allow you to move up to 2 roads if you draw a good ticket. Sajed. So now he knows I went to Klausenberg to Sajed. Back to Sophia. So we know he has 1 rifle, but he just takes 3 damage instead. So he really does not want to show me his cards, which is nice. There's a decent chance Godalming wanders into Budapest next, because it's possible he wants to check to see if I went up that direction. Now that these other hunters are starting to get close, it is definitely a little nerve-wracking. So if I move, I can move back to Sarajevo, but it's a layer, and I don't really want to give that away, but maybe I do it. Some rats there, I think. So I had an aristocratic vampire hair, right? And so if I had moved back to my lair, since Sarajevo had been revealed, it would have seen my where I was, and even though it had two action cards there, the aristocratic vampire would not have been good. I'm hoping that, uh-oh, here we are, can have some challenges here now. So he might not fall for that. Like, the idea is I clear a layer and then move somewhere else, so it makes him think I went back to the layer even though I didn't. So he played two cards. One card is you go in any order. As you've noticed, you've started with Godalming and you go down the line and then end up with Mina at the end. So one Speedy Telegraph allows you to move in any order, and then the second card, Renewed Vigor, gives every hunter 2 actions, so he gets 8 actions this turn. You just can't do the same one twice. So Seward is using horses to move 2 spaces, and then he has 1 more movement after that, 1 more regular movement if he wants. Mina has moved and supplied. Godalming and Helsing are left. Okay, so he moves into Zagreb. We'll go ahead and resolve a spy. Need to make sure that so spy means the hunters basically have to discard a weapon, is usually how that works. Yep, so he discards a rifle, that's good. Unfortunately, spy on Seward is not what you want because Seward's got the most items. So, okay, so he knows I'm 1 space away from Zagreb. Let's see what way he thinks I'm going. So Godalming's going to use horses, and he checks Vienna. So he did not fall. Well, maybe he fell for it because I removed Sarajevo. So available spots were Munich, which Mina searched, Vienna, which Godalming searched, Budapest, which is next, or Sarajevo, which is the last spot. So Godalming has enough energy with Renewed Vigor to go over to 11, but then that will leave back to 53. Okay. So this is where? This is in remember that? Zajem. Then I've got a young vampire here. I think I want to do damage probably. I do think I need to wear the hunters down, especially since that's not my rumored token. Okay, so last time he played knife, right? This time he will probably punch. Either way, we can play strength and get a... He might just escape too. Start with Mesmerize. Oftentimes, if a vampire ambushes, it means they want to do damage, which means they want to start with the Mesmerize to cancel an escape. Now, Mesmerize makes all of his weapons do 1 less damage. So I know Godalming has 2 knives and a horse, because he's been moving with a horse and he used 2 knives with me previously. So I know the only thing he can do is dodge or knife. And I know strength cancels knife, so I'm probably just going to do that, although I might plot instead, because he might dodge here. He dodges and I plot. Plot lets me... Nope, he punched. Okay, should have strength. No, that's okay. Okay, one punch. Mesmerize doesn't reduce punch damage. So now it's back to he could escape or he could knife. He escapes. Escape cancels strength. So I think I just claw here and try to get 2 damage off. If he knives, I'll still do 2 damage. Yeah, I dodged. Okay. So now he's back to he could escape, he could punch, or he could knife. Escape cancels both strength and plotting. So probably just strength here and hope that he punches again, I guess. Nope. Okay. Godalming made it through with taking no damage, which was good for him. Played. Well played. Okay, Helsing looking none the better. Needs to decide if he wants to go to Sarajevo or not. No, just wants to heal. Okay, I have a couple choices. I would very much like to try to continue to delay him to get this vampire done. If I move, I can only go to Valona. I could wolf form here, but I don't think that's what I want to do. I think I'll just give him the layup and let him see what he wants to do. Play a fog. Okay, fog has the ability to basically it prevents hunters from stacking on them. There is a card that cancels fog, and he hasn't used it yet. So we'll see. Now, Dracula, he basically knows where Dracula is at this point because he knows I can't be in Belgrade, and he knows I didn't walk on top of any hunters. Now, Godalming can't reach him by default because he can only move 2 spaces. Seward could, but he's 1 weapon down, and we know he has horses, so Seward only has 2 weapons on him, potentially. And then Helsing could as well, but Helsing's not in the best of shape, so he could potentially move both Seward and Helsing on Drac if he wants, but I do have fog, so whoever he moves first, which would be Seward, will then get stuck because of fog. Now, he might have a card that cancels it, but I might as well get him to use it right away. So I'll add fog, and the card is called Forewarned. Okay. So delaying, so the way fog works is now Valona cannot be entered for 2 rounds. And hunters cannot leave for 2 rounds. So I could go to, there are a few places I could go actually. So I can either fight Seward in the evening, knowing he has 2 weapons, or I could go to C. If I go to C, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We haven't even talked about going to C yet. I could fight him. I'm very unlikely to kill Seward. Maybe I should have fought him. Maybe I should have fought him and then fed and then fought him again. That's probably right. I don't know. I don't actually know. If any Fury of Dracula playing, any Fury of Dracula players are watching, maybe comment. I see Snuff's on there. I don't know if fighting was right or not on there. Let's see. Options are I can move to Salonika, where my lair is, and a bodyguards, or I could move to Athens, or I could wolf form, or I could move to sea. The way that sea movement works is you can't have fights on the sea, but every time Drac moves into the sea, he takes 2 damage. So we figure. So the Dolmen didn't search my vampire there because he has some time. Means either Helsing or Mina is heading over there. Can't wolf form back anywhere functional because everything's on the map. I could misdirect. I could go to Athens. If I go to Athens, then Seward will nobody will be able to get there. So the question is, if I go to sea, is there any world where I go to the Adriatic and then we'll form out? Maybe I do. The alternative is I can wait and I can go to sea and then start moving around. So it's Tuesday and I've filled up 2 weeks and I got to get to the 3rd week. So I could go Tuesday into the sea, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then like do Monday, Tuesday and try to win for some moves. But I would take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'd be almost dead. Maybe Athens is right. And then that would be Tuesday. And then I do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That might be right. Belgrade layer. Where is Belgrade? That in there. Hey, babe. I don't know. Maybe. All right. Let's do this big solo. See if this is a mistake or not. What else can I tell you? So we can expect. So Godalming's gonna try to fight this vampire with 2 knives, and my goal is to survive here. So hopefully I have Escapist Mist, which I do. So I just need to survive 4 turns, 3 turns in a row. So we'll start with a Mesmerize, I think, right? So I don't think he punches, I think he knives to start. What's up? Alright, turns out he punched. I was surprised by that. Maybe that's a win for him, even if I strength there. So strength cancels knives. Hopefully I draw another strength or another mesmerize here. So you have 5 combat cards, and every time you play one, you draw another one. So you're not guaranteed to know what you have here. All right, so I have to claws here and take another knife, unfortunately. Oh, punch, okay. And then I can escape this mist here, which is pretty good. So escape as mist just ends everything. Ends all combat. It can be canceled by a couple cards, but Godalming doesn't have any of those. Alright, took 2 damage from punches, no damage from knives. And the reason I wanted to escape there is because, again, if she matures, then I'm going to get 6 points, and that's going to put me in 10. And then I'm very close to winning at that point. But Godalming has a chance to kill this lady too. So I think, what are the chances that there's a stake there? So there's 4 in the deck. All 4 of them have been used. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I do not want to take this fight. I'll make him fight me at night. I think that's right. And if he fights at night, I think there's a way that Godalming can join the fight too, which will be unfortunate. So Seward is now free, but he can't move because it's the evening. See what Godalming decides to do here. What do we think Helsing has? We know he's got a rifle and horses. And 1 more card. Maybe a Heavenly Host. I mean, Heavenly Hosts are good. No, 1 Heavenly Host out. And we think Mina might have a second one. I don't know. Let's see, Helsing searches. So Helsing searches, Godalming decides to become delayed, and then so now it's a 2-on-1 fight in the evening, so my powers are stronger than they were previously. I have only fangs, which are not useful against Godalming, because he's got double knives, so he's just going to slam out knives over and over again. So it is useful against Helsing, though, potentially, unless Helsing's got there's 3 knives in the deck. Godalming's got 2. Seward probably has 1. Rifle, okay. So Fangs heals me, so I get 2 hit points back. Rifle deals 2 damage to me. He might have holy bullets, it's unlikely. Okay, and then Godalming will do 3. Oh, he did a punch. Very interesting. Okay. So now, let's see what I drew from a card. It's Mesmerize. I could Mesmerize a knife. Or I could just Fangs again over whatever Helsing has. If Helsing dodges and Godalming plays his other knife, I'm dead. If I Mesmerize Godalming with Helsing knives or Heavenly Hosts, I'm done. So I'm just going to Fangs Helsing and see what happens again. If he happens to play Heavenly Host, it kills him right away, but then I'll still die with knives. Okay, rifle again. I'm still alive. So he's got double rifle. So double rifle for Helsing, double knife for Godalming, probably 1 knife on Seward. The knife's gonna kill me. Oh, we tried. Nice attempt, Bloody Vampire. All right, now I have to go to the way he goes to Klausenberg for any real reason, right? Sorry there. All right, now we have to go to the sea. So I'm going to go to the sea. I'm going to take 2 damage. And then his ally is this Sister Agatha, which is good, helps him in combat. He also has an ally for a pirate, which doubles the sea damage I take every move. Normally I take 1 for every move, or 2 if the pirate's in play, or 2 if I'm entering the sea. So I entered the sea to take 2. Then if I say go to the North Sea, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more damage I would take. See if Sajed matures or not. Horses Pursuer. So now you'll see this trend where the hunters will kind of spread out into places that they can draw items from and events, and also more centralized locations to try to hedge against wherever I'm moving, because it's unlikely I get off the sea train right away. You can also see sea spaces are different color than land spaces, so it'll be obvious when I land. There's not a huge motivation for me to land at the moment. I guess the other thing I should mention too is if I killed a hunter, you get a certain amount of points depending on how advanced the game track is. The stronger the hunter is assumed to be, the more points you get. So if you kill a hunter week 1, you'll get like 1 or 2 points. But if you kill a hunter in week 3, you get like 4 or 5 points maybe. Just post it in the chat if there's any rebellion folks watching right now. Please let me know. We're gonna keep layering. Oh, we want to mature this, yeah. Yeah, that's right. He did not. Okay, that works. So I think the reason he let that mature is because maybe he thought that the last rumor token I had on there was a vampire, when in fact it was just a rat. He also may have done it because he didn't feel confident that he could. 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. So maybe didn't feel confident he could get rid of that guy. He is probably exactly what he's drawing for right now. Not that he shouldn't be drawing for something specific, but he needs to kind of reorganize his locations and then also draw for some good movement cards. Because again, you can't pin Dracula at sea. Dracula's free to move. Okay, choose a sea location. Reveal. Yep, Tyrrhenian Sea. Yep. So he knows I didn't go into the Black Sea or the Adriatic, so now he knows I'm here. So now he's assuming I'm going to kind of head this direction, probably. My goal is I'll do a, so we're in Friday now. So Friday night I'll move to the Med, Saturday, Sunday, and then probably Monday at Galloway, and then hide or move to Dublin for next one. Maybe I move into the Irish. There is a card called Consecrated Ground, which has a way of ending games in unfortunate sort of ways for Dracula. You can get pinned and stuck, and I sort of know how it works, but I've lost to that too many times. So the idea is if you pin yourself in an area where you can't move, it's a problem. So if I were to like get off in North Atlantic, then that becomes a problem pretty quickly. But again, we're almost to the correct week here. Also, me and I are trading. So a lot of this game for the hunters is figuring out the right combination of cards, like who needs to have what, how do we get to where we need to get to, where is Dracula going to be, how can we force a fight with Drac. I'm just going to play it safe. So we're in the Tyrannian. It's Friday night. We're going to go to the Med for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even Monday into the Irish, and then Tuesday, Wednesday will win me the game. 1, 2, 3, 2. So this will be Friday move, Saturday move, Sunday move, Monday. And this is nice to have left desecrated soil there. I probably should have left a vampire, to be honest. I assumed he was going to walk on there, but yeah, I guess the correct move would have been to leave a vampire there, so that could have matured. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, fair enough. There was a potential move where I get off on Cagliari here and then do a feed to heal and then get back on the trail after that, but I think that would not be worth it for a net of 1 because I'd heal for 3 and then end up here. Well, that might have been right. It's also worth pointing out that with they call it the Fury of Dracula points, the moves during the day when this is full, you don't get points if you're at sea. You only get points for land. I think the idea is the old man is so tired of getting chased around that he just starts spawning vampires every place that he moves. I don't know why he doesn't do that in week 1, but you know, wouldn't be as tense of a game if the game automatically ended after Thursday. So let me know in the comments what you think about the theme of this game. It does have some, I think you can see why I like it. The card play is similar to um, like Rebellion in a way, um, with some of the counterplay that's around. Um, the hidden movement game is kind of fun. It's also fun to try to kill hunters, and it's pretty fun. You know, hunters is the real puzzle faction. You know, I feel like hunters and Empire are sort of analogous. You have to try to deduce where the rebel base is, and the rebels are trying to like stomp you out. But I don't know. I've got an attraction to Dracula in this game. I think because they're sort of the underdog, although maybe that doesn't make sense because I do like Shadow and War of the Ring, and I do like um, Empire and Star Wars. So maybe there's a different theme going on here. Maybe I just have bad guy blood, misunderstood guy blood. Maybe there's got to be a case you can make for Dracula being misunderstood, right? He just wants to love Mina. Like that's all. And here's the thing: he's eating people, right? Like drinking blood. but like people eat animals all the time in more horrific ways than Dracula eats humans, right? So maybe the hunters are actually the bad guys here. I might be thinking. All right, maybe Drac works for PETA. I don't know. What else here? Okay, so I have moved to the South Atlantic. I have one more move to make before Fury totally loads. And then I think I'll make another move into the Irish Sea just to obfuscate things a little bit. Sure, there's so the way consecrated ground works is depending on how many of these heavenly hosts you have drawn, and you'll see he cycled through the item deck on here. So you basically get to place a cannot move here token permanently on the board, and then you can place three other temporary cannot move here tokens on the board, and then if Drac can't move, he takes 5 damage and clears the trail. And then if you happen to get yourself stuck somewhere, like if I'm in Manchester and he puts consecrated ground around all these other ones, then I just take 5 damage immediately 3 times in a row, and that kills me because I can't move and I can't go to sea. So whenever I get off the train here, the idea will be to have enough spots where I can move to that aren't going to kill me. So like I think that would be London, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. I know this part of the game is probably a little dull for everybody, but on the hunter side of things, it's a little bit more complicated because you're trying to suss out, okay, well, if Dracula is here, where do we go to? This is often referred to, I think, as the pirate Dracula strategy, but, and you can see now this sun is very angry. So, like, if I get off on 23, that'll get me 3 points immediately. And then if I move to 18, it'll win the game. But if he has that card and I get off on 23 and he blocks 18, I then take 5 damage, have to go back to the North Atlantic to take 2 more damage. And then I have to move and then get off again. So I think it's better to take 1 extra damage and move to the Irish Sea. Maybe the English Channel. Irish Sea's got to be right, right? So if I move to the sea, you can see how he's close to these ports here. We haven't really talked about ports. So they're blue cities that are attached to the sea. So for example, Amsterdam #2 is adjacent to the North Sea, and then Edinburgh is adjacent to the North Sea. So he's on Le Havre, which is close to London. Like, so English Channel connects to London and Plymouth. Um, Liverpool and Swansea connect to the Irish. So I think there's like two or three that connect to every sea. There's nothing that connects to 2 seas, even though it looks like that's the case here. So if I get off on North Atlantic, I can only get off on Galloway, or I could wolf form to one of these other locations here. Like I could wolf form to Santander, I could wolf form to Toulouse, I could wolf form to 18, which might be the right thing to do. If I wolf form to 18, I'll take 1 point. That'll bring me down to 8. And then if he pushes me out to C here, that'll 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay, so I think I can win if I wolf form to Dublin. We'll just try it. Especially because I get desecrated soil to mature and give me some health. Okay. We'll see if I die to consecrated ground here somehow. Seems right. Okay, so that was desecrated soil I left in Athens. Gave me 3 health points when it matured. Had I dropped a vampire there, the game would be over right now. Okay, so he plays Surprising Return, finds me on Dublin. So now the question is, does he have Consecrated Ground? He might. Or maybe not. Maybe he's just going to move all the way around. Feel like he might be drawing. Maybe you can lose Consecrated Ground at night. I don't exactly know how it is. So this is sort of like the analogy to Rebellion here would be sometimes you have to dig for missions that you're in need of or hope that you draw them. In Fury, you have some ability to choose how hard you're digging because you can opt out of moving in exchange for drawing stuff, right? Um, did he do a renewed vigor? He did not. He just did Speedy Telegraph. Okay, good game. So he doesn't have the cards he needs to stop me from being in Dublin. So what will happen is when he does his final move, Fings of Fire. Okay. Or unless he's got some way to win that I don't know about. Maybe he meant GG because he was going to win. Yeah, so he's saying if he had found a stake for his vampire lair. So there's a card called Vampire Lair that allows you to remove some health, some fury points on there. I don't have to win that fight, right? I can just move there. Let's see what he says. My question to him was, if I move here, do I get my 3 points right away? Which I think I do. Yeah, he says that's right. So he did. I mean, he found me. He knew where I was. It's just a matter of didn't quite have enough juice in the tank to get it through. Also, had I tried to be tricky and wolf form to not Dublin and wolf form out to Spain or something, he could have found me and had a fight. Makes sense. All right. Well, very good. So I'll show you what the closing of this looks like. There's some fun stats that you get on this mod here. Um, and then when we close out here, I'll show you what that all looks like. You can see, oh, okay, consecrated ground. Maybe there is still a thing. Okay, so we're not quite done yet. Oh, he only has no. There we go. Okay. All right. So the alternative here would be to go. So why not put? Oh, because I could get off and do that. Yep. Yeah, that's how. So that's how consecrated ground plays. So like the hard part would be if I can't. Got it written through this. Let's go ahead and move here. So if he had consecrated ground here, I could have just moved to the sea and then landed on one of these spots too. So would have been tough. So moving there gives me my final 3 points. I don't need to win that fight, even though there's 2 hunters there. And that will get me up to the top. And then here's some of the stats that are nice at the end of the game that it tracks for you. So it'll show you like how much damage you dealt, how many combats you were in, how far you went, tracks self damage, days that went through, all sorts of little things about cards. And this tracks from player to player, so you can do a little bit of research on your opponent and get some ideas as to like what their trends are and what they like to do. It was good that I matured 2 vampires, had a tendency to play claws and fangs, strength. Didn't plot very much. That's pretty normal. Um, Yep, well played. So let me know in the comments if you liked it. I probably won't be streaming much of this, but I did want to showcase it because I do play this game from time to time. So hopefully you liked it and it was a good change of pace, and I will see you guys around.